Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer B. Dadole under Group 7. Together with my group members, Meryl Mendoza and Queenie Diaz, we will be discussing the topic about IT risk management and cybersecurity, privacy, and ethics. And today, I am tasked to discuss about IT risk management. Information system security, or cybersecurity as it is generally called, refers to the set of defenses an organization puts in place to mitigate threats to its technology, infrastructure, and digital assets. IT risk management is the process by which the firm attempts to identify and measure information system security risks and to devise the optimal mitigation strategy. Now, what is really IT risk management in a broader definition? So IT risk management is the application of risk management methods to manage IT threats. IT risk management involves procedures, policies, and tools to identify and assess potential threats and vulnerabilities in IT infrastructure. Before we thoroughly discuss IT risk management, let me give you some examples of IT risk. Hardware and software failure. Hardware faults are mostly physical faults. Software faults are design faults which are tough to visualize, classify, detect, and correct. Hardware components generally fail due to wear and tear. Software component fails due to bugs. An example of hardware faults are keys not working on keyboard, laptop touchpad causing cursor to jump randomly, display screen image distortion, and signs of virus infection. On the other hand, examples of software failures in the history is when T-Mobile data breach affects 50 million customers and when TikTok glitch resets followers to zero. Human error. Human error in cybersecurity accounts for either an intentional or lack of action that results in data breach. It includes activities like downloading an infected software and keeping a weak password or compromising the IP address that can be checked on what is my IP and not updating the software. So here is top 5 human errors that impact cybersecurity. Using a weak password or storing it incorrectly, using software that is outdated or not secure, carelessly handling data, low security awareness, and letting an authorized person access a company device. Spam, viruses, and malicious attacks. Malware, short for malicious software, refers to any intrusive software developed by cybercriminals, or often called hackers, to steal data and damage or destroy computers and computer systems. So examples of this malware are spyware, which collects user activity data without their knowledge; adware, serves unwanted advertisement; trojans, disguises itself as desirable code; and worms, spreads through a network by replicating itself. Natural disaster. There are specific natural disasters can severely damage the computer system directly or avoid its operations. This includes local flooding such as fracture of air conditioning or water cooling equipment, local landslide, earthquake, subsidence, and etc. So those are examples of IT risk. And now you will discuss the steps to IT risk management. IT, or information technology, has become so integrated into our personal and professional lives that it touches upon almost everything we do. Due to its expansive influence, it's essential to talk about risk management in IT. IT risk management is the application of risk management methods to information technology to manage the risk inherent in that space. To do that means assessing the business risk associated with the use, ownership, operation, and adoption of IT in an organization. Risk assessment. What is risk assessment? The risk assessment process consists of auditing the current resources, technological as well as human, in an effort to map the current state of the art of information system security in the organization. An understanding of the current resources will provide an idea of the current set of vulnerabilities the firm is facing. Why is risk assessment important? The purpose of a risk assessment is to ensure that a workplace is safe to work in and all individuals involved are appropriately protected from hazards. The process of a risk assessment involves firstly identifying hazard within a workplace and then subsequently implementing control measures. So here are the steps to risk assessment. Step 1. Identify the risk. You can't prepare for risk without first figuring out to the best of your ability where and when it might arise. Therefore, both manager and team must be alert to uncovering and recognizing any risks, then detailing them by explaining how they might impact the project and outcomes. Step 2. Analyze the risk. Once you've identified the risk, you then must analyze it and discern if it's big, small, or minimal in its impact. Also, what would be the impact of each of the risks? Study the risk and how it might influence the project in various ways. You'll then add these findings to your risk assessment. Step 3. Evaluate and rank the risk. Once you evaluate the impact of risks and prioritize them, you can begin to develop strategies to control them. This is done by understanding what the risk can do to the project, which is determining the likelihood of its occurring and the magnitude of its impact. Then you can say that the risk must be addressed or can be ignored without faulting the overall project. Again, these rankings would be added to your risk assessment. Step 4. Respond to the risk. After all this, if the risk becomes an actual issue, then you're no longer in the theoretical realm. It's time for action. This is what we call risk response planning. It's in which you take your high priority risks and decide how to treat them or modify them so they place as a lower priority. Risk mitigation strategies apply here, as well as preventive and contingency plans. Add these approaches to your risk assessment. And lastly, step 5, monitor and review the risk. Once you act, you must track and review the progress of mitigating the risk. Use your risk assessment to track and monitor how your team is dealing with the risk to make sure that nothing is left out or forgotten. IT risk management strategies. Number 1, apply safeguards. This is an avoidance strategy where the company decides to avoid risk at all costs and focuses a lot of resources on that end. If you can avoid the risk, then it is no longer a threat to the project. However, there is a downside to this. If you avoid the risk, you also avoid the associated potential of its return and opportunity. So it's a decision not to take lightly. Number 2, reduce the impact. This is a mitigation strategy where the company works to reduce the impact of the risk through methodology, teams, or whatever resources are at its disposal. It can involve small changes but always must come by process and a plan. And number 3, accept the risk. This is an acceptable strategy where you know there is a risk and accepts that. So when and if it occurs, you can deal with it then and there. This is sometimes unavoidable but manageable if you have followed the steps in your project risk assessment template. And that ends my report, and I will leave you with a quote. The key to risk management is never putting yourself in a position where you cannot live to fight another day. Thank you.